Okay, welcome back to film class. Night of the Hunter. For many of you, this is going to be your first black and white movie. My students don't watch a ton of black and white movies. One of the first questions I get in film class is, "Are you going to make us watch black and white movies?" For some of you, this is your first black and white movie. It's a real good one to start with, because it's a movie that looks. It's sometimes I think students feel like black and white movies. It's just from a time when they didn't have the technology to do color. Um, and obviously once color was introduced, things got better, which is not really true. Um, it's a movie that was made. Color movies existed in the 1950s. This movie is 1 year after Rear Window, so they definitely existed. They chose to make it in black and white, and thank God they did, because it's one of the most gorgeous black and white movies. I mean, the blacks and the whites in the black and white movie Night of the Hunter are actually some of the best features in the movie. It's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Mm. And so the first thing I want to talk about is actually the black and white color, and also the lighting. It's one of the most striking things about the film, and it's one of the best things about the film. So there's a kind of movie called film noir, and we'll be watching a film noir later in the semester called Double Indemnity. It's also black and white. Um, Night of the Hunter is I don't know whether you would call it a film noir or not. Film noirs usually feature detectives, is what you think about, and an evil woman who's sort of seducing, doing dangerous things. The femme fatale is sort of, those are the two big things that make up a film noir. But this movie has a lot in common with film noirs. Film noir with a detective and the femme fatale woman, the evil woman. Those movies, film noirs, one of the things film noirs are about is that every aspect of society is just rotten from top to bottom. But it's usually, the film noirs usually start with some kind of simple murder, and then they start to unravel, and you realize like all of society is just disgusting. Um, Night of the Hunter certainly is about that, which makes me want to classify it as a film noir, even though it doesn't have like a detective protagonist or that kind of thing. Anyway, I don't really care much about categories and what category you put the movie in. Is it a film noir? Is it not a film noir? This is not an interesting conversation for me. Is a burrito a sandwich? Is a taco a sandwich? Is a hamburger a sandwich? Is a hot dog a sandwich? I don't know. Whatever. Figure it out. Um, so, what I want to talk about with Night of the Hunter, but it looks like a film noir. So let's just start there, and we can start pointing out some of, and the reason why it looks like a film noir is the same as in the film noir. So let's talk about why it looks the way that it does. Um, Film noirs. This movie's from 1955, but film noir really started in the 40s. Um, and the thing about film noir is they were low budget films. They were low budget films, and they were black and white films, um, cheaper, um, and they didn't have a ton of money. And so what the directors of the movies did, is you can watch a movie. It's possible to watch a movie in black and white and see everything really clearly. We're going to watch another movie later this semester in black and white called Persona, and when you look at it, I hope you'll remember Night of the Hunter and compare it. Now, Persona is a movie in black and white. Roma is a movie in black and white. But there are movies where they're black and white, but you can see everything clearly. Everything's really well lit, looks great. You can recognize everything looks beautiful. But it's like normal but black and white. Like you just took regular life and put a black and white filter on it, like on an Instagram filter or something. That's what a lot of black and white movies look like. Like they could have been in color. Night of the Hunter and film noirs had such a low budget that one of the things they wanted to do was to cover up how they didn't have a whole lot of money. So what they did is they made the shadows in the movie. They filmed it in such a way that the areas that are, it's not just black and white. It's that the blacks are very black and the lights are very light. So instead of just getting like a simple black and white picture, the blacks are blacker and the whites are whiter. The result of that is that everything is very dramatic. It's a lot of, and if you're and I think you can probably know what I'm talking about when you talk about Night of the Hunter. There are many shots of the kid's home at the beginning of the movie in fog, but it's pitch black around the house. Um, uh, or when you see him following the kids, and it's just his horse, and he looks like a shadow riding a horse. It's pitch black, and the sunrise is just out there slowly kind of creeping up. It's a very dramatic image. There's no, they call it black and white, but it's usually gray. But what these movies do is they have a lot of very black blacks and very light lights. So you get a bright beam of light in an all black situation. The modern day movie that my students often know, the look of film noir is Sin City. And if you know the Sin City movies, they're trying to recreate things like Night of the Hunter, but on a bigger budget with special effects and these kinds of. They're using computers to get those effects. But in the old days, they didn't use computers. They just filmed it and they lit it. It's lighting. It's a lighting effect. You put the lights in certain places, and if you put the lights in certain areas, it'll make certain kinds of lights and placement of light will make one area pitch black and the other one too bright. And that's what's happening in this movie. It creates the most absurdly dramatic images. And again, some of the images at the beginning are perfectly normal, like where the father comes up with the money and gives it to the kid. It just looks like a black and white movie. But there's images in the film, particularly when the kids are on the lake, on the river at night sailing, where it's just pitch black, but you see the stars. And the animals are like brightly lit, but the kids are surrounded by darkness, but the spider web is all lit up. And the house, just the scenes of the house at night of the kid's original home. At night, it's like the windows are like lit up white, and the area the house is in is total pitch black darkness, and they add to this by putting fog in. And so it's a very dramatic scheme of lighting. And you'll see this as you go. It's a hard thing to teach here because what I would do normally in class, I would pause it and make you look at the images, and pause it and make you look and discuss the images. And that's a little trickier to do here, although I may grab a clip down below or something. But I hope you know you've seen the movie, so you should know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure you have a dozen examples of your own. In fact, if you'd love to grab some of your favorite examples of the way the movie looks and talk about them on the discussion board, I'd love to hear it. So it's very dramatically lit. It doesn't look like the other movies we've seen this semester, but even a lot of black and white movies don't look like this. It's an extremely dramatic thing. It's not just a style. It's not simply a style. It's also connected to what the movie is about. This is a movie that is about cosmic good and cosmic evil. It's a very dramatic. In fact, the opening image of the film is like a woman's, disembodied in space, and these floating heads of little children as she reads them a story from the Bible about wolves and preachers and things. So it tells you the first thing you see. Why is it set in space? Why does the first thing the director want to show you like the stars and these people's heads hovering over the stars? Because this is a big story. This is not a story about one guy who's a bad guy. And by the way, this is true of The Shining as well. It's not a story about one guy who's a bad guy who does terrible things. It's a story about a lot of people and a big cosmic battle between good and evil, just like The Shining is some kind of battle between sort of, I don't know, civilization and madness or whatever. It's a big subject. The lighting is not coincidental. It's not just like, oh, they made a movie and they were like, you know what, let's make it look really bright whites and really dark blacks. They filmed it like this because it fits the theme. The lighting is connected to what the film is about, which is the conflict between good and evil. The conflict between the forces of love and the forces of hate. I have to have one thing on the camera, so I can't do both. But the point is, you got those knuckle tattoos, love and hate, good and evil. The Reverend Powell and that sweet little old lady who takes care of the kids at the end. This is a battle between the two of them, but it's not just about two people. It's really about the forces of good and evil, and it's an extremely dramatic, big movie that suggests bigger cosmic realities. So this is we're going to take a look at Night of the Hunter and go through it, kind of looking at some of the stuff. Yeah, okay, cool. And I'll see you in the next video.